you got to lean into the pain. You got to lean into what's difficult. You got to lean into the challenge. You got something makes you uncomfortable. You can learn something there. Stay there a while. Fucking fight through it.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is Dano from DevDevice, and today I have Justin Cobb, the founder and CEO of Carbon6 with me. Welcome, Justin.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, man. I mean, to have the founder of Carbon6 on my podcast, that's quite something. I'm feeling a bit excited about this, and I'm even more excited to learn about your life story and how you became the person you are today. But first of all, we want to learn. I mean, Carbon6 is like one of the really big players in the Amazon space, and everyone who is involved in Amazon will know you guys. But for those who don't, maybe you just give us a little bit of an insight what Carbon6 does.
Yeah, we are an end-to-end software platform to help sellers and brands crush it on Amazon. To take it back a little bit to the origin story, I lived down here in Puerto Rico. I moved down here during COVID. Had meant to retire. I had a previous business that went really well, and I just turned 40, and my goal was always to retire at 40, and I came down here, and in many ways, Carbon6 is my failed attempt at taking it easy. The neighborhood I live in down here is pretty interesting. A lot of really successful people live down here. Ricky Martin and Bad Bunny and Ozuna and Peter Schiff and Carlos Beltran and a bunch of Puerto Rican baseball players, Logan Paul, Jake Paul. Well, at the time when I first moved down here, the only 4 people that I met that were younger than me were all Amazon sellers. And I'm a competitive guy, so it kind of irked me, kind of pissed me off. One of them, Brendan, whose business Seller Tools we ended up acquiring, had just bought what now is like a $10 million condo on the beach. He was like 30 something, you're 32, 34 years old. 3 years before that, he was working in a grocery store. And
no way, 3 years before?
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah, 3.5 maybe, but yeah, less than 4. And so, and his business was like water bottles and yoga mats. And it was fascinating to me. I mean, the whole space was just fascinating to me. They had all sold their business, all these sellers had sold their businesses to aggregators. And frankly, they had all struggled. All those businesses had struggled. Despite that, there was just so much money going into the aggregator space. And I couldn't really understand why. And I didn't have any experience at that point. I'd been successful in business, but I'd never raised money. I'd never built what would be considered a startup. I didn't know capital markets at all. But I just thought it was fascinating that $15 billion was going into the space. And as I looked into Amazon, what I also noticed was that Brendan and his other buddies that were sellers on Amazon had 10, 15, 20, 30, sometimes even more tabs open on their computer all day, because that's how many apps it took them to run their business. And so at first, it really just started out as, I think we can buy some of these and get an arbitrage and they'll be worth more. And I think we'll be able to raise money because everyone likes the term Amazon aggregator right now. That was the original birth of Carbon6. When we looked at it, what we saw was...
When was that? What year was that?
Yeah, so it'll be 3 years ago, April 7th. So, in a few weeks, three-year anniversary. And previous to that, Dano, I didn't know anything. I didn't know anything about, wasn't a tech guy, let alone, e-commerce tech. It was a big space, and I have a lot of neighbors here. There's like one of my friends is like the 3rd guy in Ethereum. There's several Bitcoin billionaires, crypto billionaires in my neighborhood. And a few of them have been pitching me on doing projects with them. And being the CEO of one of their projects. When I looked at e-commerce, what the downside protection seemed so high to me. So if I was going to put in a lot of effort, if I was going to go get back in the game, and I was going to keep going, I wanted to make sure that the ROI on my investment was safe. And when I looked at it, you had 700 billion. What was trending towards last year was 700 billion going through Amazon. We estimated that 1% of that $7 billion is spent on software and automation, and nobody even had 1% of that market. So when we looked at the TAM, it was going to grow. And the thing about it was the revenue was consolidating upstream. Every month, a smaller amount of sellers and brands will do a higher percentage of the revenue that's also growing. And the businesses that had built to some sort of scale in the Amazon software space so far had done so really catering to the new seller. And our thesis was that that isn't the way that the next leg of the journey for Amazon success is going to be defined. It's going to be by the more experienced brands, the D2C that are coming onto Amazon, the really smart new seller, but also people like my buddy Brendan who can sell the water bottle, the sports brand, and build another one and sell that one and build another one and sell that one and build another one. And not only does he have more Amazon knowledge and understands the platform better, but he also has cash to help him get off the mark. And so reach out to Kazi, who's one of my co-founders. Kazi, I had been the lead investor on his last business. He had just exited, and that's how we got started. 5 days later, we had 5 businesses under LOI. We made 16 acquisitions in the first year and a bit. It's been quite a ride.
My God, this sounds like entrepreneur wonderland to me. It's unbelievable. So you just came to the right place, is that right? I mean, Puerto Rico.
It's nice down here. I mean, there's some substantial tax benefits for Americans. There's not a lot of places as an American where you can substantially lower your tax basis, but there's no capital gains down here. 4% corp tax. It wasn't why I moved down here at all. I moved down here. We came down and visited during the riots during COVID. My wife and I were a couple doors down from the governor's place in Atlanta, and it was just pretty hectic. So we came down, fell in love with it. But look, probably part of the reason, probably part of the impetus for going on this journey with Carbon6 was when you know you're going to get 100% of your return in terms of you're not going to pay any taxes on the difference between starting your business and shares aren't worth anything and exiting your business one day or going public and the shares being worth a lot certainly is a motivator. But it's great down here. The weather's great. It's great for our family.
What's nice is for my kids, they get to have an upbringing very similar to mine. The neighborhood here is super safe, so the kids can, within reason, roam and go out and go see their friends and come back after dark. And it's nice. It's been a great move for us.
Yeah, it sounds like a beautiful place to be. It's a little bit like Malaysia was for me when I came here the first time also, except I didn't meet all these big boys here in my neighborhood like you did. But it sounds so incredible. So basically, but yeah, I mean, we're gonna cover this in a bit more detail because this podcast is all about your life story, and what you shared with me just now was unbelievable, and so I'm really excited to hear more about how you came to this place where you are today. So what we do here is we travel back to 10-year-old Justin, and we get to know him, what was going on in his life. I mean, of course, it can be 11 or 9-year-old Justin. And then we would love to hear what were the crossroads, what were the decisions Justin had to make, and what were the events that made you become the guy you are today.
Yeah, so I grew up in a small town, Madison, Connecticut. At the time when I was 10, I think there was probably 11,000 people, 12,000 people. Now it's maybe 15 or 17,000. I would have been in 5th grade. I was insanely competitive. I was really driven. I tried my absolute hardest at everything. I was a baseball player at 10. I was one of only, I think there was 2 of us or 3 of us that got to play in the majors in that division. It was a 10 to 12-year-old age group, and I wasn't the most talented kid, but nobody hustled harder than me. I started playing the saxophone when I was 9. At 10, I was first chair. And again, I don't think I had that much musical talent, but I was just an animal. I worked my ass off. I'd practice 3-4 hours a day. I'd control absolutely everything that I could. And, so I was learning some solos, and we won some competitions as a group. And I remember my upbringing being really, really nice. We had just moved at that point into our forever home where my parents still lived, that my dad helped build. I remember going over and bringing him lunch and dinner, and he had a contractor, but he was really hands-on with all of it. A few years before I turned 10, we moved into it was beautiful, a couple acres, big yard. People would come over, we'd play tag football in the yard or tackle football sometimes. You know, there were trees and rocks that were like first for baseball that were first base and second base, and the corner of the driveway was third base. And there was like a stone wall that my dad had built that, you know, I wasn't big enough to hit it over the wall, but sometimes you get it close to the wall. So yeah, a lot of playing, a lot of competing, and some music mix in there is how I remember being 10 years old, you know.
And what happened next? So I'm assuming something like you finished school, you had to make a decision like what to do next. Like what was the next?
I mean, I wanted to be a Major League Baseball player, badly. But I was a huge New York Mets fan. I would watch every game. I had a notebook where I would take notes about everything that happened in the game and do the box scores. And
what?
I was obsessed with baseball cards. What happens in the States is when you turn 13, you go from 60-foot bases to 90. So from the smaller, like if you ever seen the League World Series on television, you go from the smaller field to the larger field, because theoretically you as a human in your evolution, you're supposed to grow. The only thing is I didn't grow. I was
you didn't.
I didn't grow.
You didn't grow?
No, and so at some point, the fact that I worked harder and hustled and tried harder than everybody wasn't good enough, right? So I mentioned when I was 10, I was one of only a couple kids who got to play with the bigger kids and the 11 and 12-year-olds. By 13, I was still, you know, above average, but it was clear I was not going, for my small town, it was clear I was not going to be a Major League Baseball player. And it was heartbreaking for me because I didn't think it was my fault, right? I didn't think that I was doing everything I could do. I went to camps. I was studying baseball constantly. I was working on my swing. I was doing everything. Like I was catching fly balls with a pitching machine that would shoot them 200 feet up in the air. I mean, I was doing everything I possibly could, but it just became really evident to me that sometimes in life, the things you want to do, you just don't have the capacity. You just don't have the God-given, whether it can be intelligence, it can be, in this case, natural, physical athleticism or height or weight. And it was like discouraging, but it was discouraging. So for a few years there, I guess 7th, 8th grade, sports became a smaller part of my life for the first time. Or I guess it was just 8th grade. And then I go to high school as a freshman, and this guy, Nick Ricano, came from like the toughest, you know, family. Him and his older brothers were like, you know, mess with them in our town. And I don't know Nick very well, but Nick's like, hey, I think you should go out for the wrestling team. And I'd never been in a fight in my life. I was a tiny kid. I weighed 86 pounds at that point. The lightest weight class is 103. So I'm like, you know, nearly 20% lighter than the lightest weight class. He's like, you can be varsity. We don't have anybody. We need someone. Like, just come out for the team and try it. And I was like, oh, okay. I guess I'll do it. And so my freshman year, I start wrestling. This is, you know, like you see in the Olympics, right? I think it's maybe the first Olympic sport, or that along with sprinting. And I was terrible. I mean, I won one match, and I lost 19. And out of those 19 matches, in 18 of them, it was over in 30 seconds or less. I got pinned in 30 seconds less. But I thought it was fair. I was eventually going to grow, and I was going to get to wrestle people and fight with people and battle people that were my size. And I didn't get to do that in the baseball field. And so I did what I do in anything in my life, and I still do today. And I just started working harder than everybody else. And my spirit, my attitude, I lost 19 matches, but no one could tell me I wasn't going to be great, because I decided if I'm going to be great with my effort. And I was a great student. So I started wrestling all off season. Next year I did a lot better. All off season the next season. I was lucky enough to have incredible mentors. There's a lesson in there. My high school wrestling coach, God rest his soul, he passed away just before the start of COVID, is my hero in many ways in this world. My junior year, so 2 years after I was 1-19, I won 50-something matches, and I won a state championship. It was the first time I ever won, gold. Yeah. And so what that
Holy
taught me was
cow.
that with the right mindset and the right work ethic and the right fucking tenacity and the right way of attacking a problem, that even something that I don't think I had any natural ability at, evidenced by how poorly I did my freshman year, my first year wrestling, I could do anything. I ended up wrestling in college for a bit before transferring to a school that didn't have wrestling. But man, like that taught me that I can do anything, as long as I'm competing in something that's fair.
Wow, that's amazing. You decided to become a wrestler and you actually did it.
Now inside of that, like that's the good part of the story. The rest of the story is like I got in a lot of trouble in high school. I nothing crazy, but like partying and talking too much in class, and was total wise ass, and I was a bit insubordinate, and at one point I was in school suspension instead of half my classes because my teachers didn't want to teach me. I was a hyper guy. I had a lot of that energy that I had, that I think created all the good at that point in my life. Also, I hadn't learned how to control it, and I found the constraints of school just really, really difficult for me. I found sitting in a chair for long periods of time and concentrating and focusing on things I didn't care about. I found that all really difficult.
Exactly. I can relate to that.
Yeah, right. Like wasn't good at just like sucking it up and acting like I care. I couldn't do it. And so there was a lot of, I guess, hit or miss moments that even bled into the first college I went to.
So you went to college after school?
Yeah. I went to my first college. I had some trouble, but I ended up graduating from school in New Orleans from a really good school, Loyola, and then I was going to go to law school. But what I wanted to do is play music, and I was like a hippie kid. I loved to go see bands, and I think what happened was I was a really hyper guy, and the first thing that ever like calmed me down was smoking cannabis. So just like anything I do in my life, I probably got a little more into it than one should. And there was this whole kind of like scene that I was congruent with, and a particular genre of music that I really fell in love with. Anyway, so I found myself playing in a band, and not sure what's next after college. Am I going to go to law school? Am I going to go get a job? Am I going to play in a band? And then by total happenstance, I end up in a situation where I need some money and for an engine for the car I was driving around. And
I read the story in your LinkedIn profile. Yeah, so your car broke down, and then you had to go find money to repair it.
Yeah, and so I just I'd worked like 70 jobs at that point, but never for longer than 3.5 weeks, because I just had no commit. Again, with the school, I had no commitment to things that I didn't think were important. Right. I had a great attitude about things I cared about, and I was tenacious about things that I didn't deem important. I think hopefully I've gotten better at this, but I was awful. I mean, just world-class bad at sucking it up and doing it. And so I figured, I don't do anything for longer than 3 weeks. I'll go down. I take this job selling coupons door to door in the winter in Boston, but I'm a competitive. So I'm kind of excited because 30 other people in the office, and I can either win or lose every day. And that's going to get me more excited than anything. So, and the rest is history. I ended up turning that into a business today that has thousands and thousands of people. I moved to England, Ireland, Scotland, Wales, Spain, Portugal, Italy, Poland, which was awesome for me. And
wait a second. So how did that turn into a business? You went selling coupons door to door, and then what? I missed the middle part here.
So Subway sandwich store, right? That was one of the clients. And there's Subways all over the country. So in every city that they didn't have an office yet, they wanted offices. So there was this training program where they teach you how to run a business. You do sales, you build a team, and then you pick a city. So I opened up in Charlotte, North Carolina, my first company. I was 24 years old. Then I left someone there. I went to Atlanta. Then I moved to then I found some partners, made the business my own, moved to London, met a guy over there, Jess Young. That's an amazing guy. And we grew the business together, along with some other partners. And today, we have kiosks in the majority of Walmarts in the country selling telco services. We have charity fundraisers in every downtown city center across America, many in Europe, raising money for amazing causes. We've raised billions of dollars for charities. And in Europe, as they would deregulate energy or telco in a country, I'd come in behind them with my and build a sales force. So yeah, it was fun. It was awesome, and it was a great way to see the world. I grew up in a small town. I got a passport one day, and then I moved to England 2 hours later as a 27-year-old, and moved to Spain and learned Spanish. Was there when they won the World Cup, and my wife and I have 3 children. They were one was born in Barcelona, one in London, one in Atlanta in the States. So yeah, it was quite a ride. It was quite a ride, and I think again, all the same principles that we've been talking about. My confidence derives from a belief that I will work harder for longer with a better attitude, that I'll be a better student and be more humble, and let success go to my head less than the next person. And I believe that if I do that, then the same things that happen in wrestling will happen in other areas of my life. Same thing that happened when I was playing the saxophone. Same thing that happened when I was playing baseball before, it became evident that there were factors outside my control that were where I hit a ceiling there. And in many ways, when we started Carbon6, it shouldn't have worked. I've never raised money before. I didn't know tech. I didn't know Amazon at all.
So you were in the coupon business, and then you went to Carbon6.
The coupon business matured, and now we work with the largest companies in the world. So maybe 1% of it now is residential, like door to door. The rest of it is business to business. We're set ups in malls and airports and big box. We've matured the business in major ways, and there's the managers that we train that open up their own businesses now, do really, really, really well, like 3 or 4x how we did back in my day when I opened up my first office. But yeah.
And from there to Carbon6, how did that happen? So from coupon business to founding to starting Carbon6, how did that happen?
Yeah, so I think look, the part I mentioned earlier is seeing the opportunity and meeting sellers and seeing the opportunity. I think that what happened was I thought I was going to be an investor because that's what you do. I learned how to make a lot of money, so now we'll figure out where to put it. But everything I saw, man, I just wanted to compete. I wanted to build something better. That's the way I looked at it. So, and I wanted to impact that, and I wanted to apply the principles of success that I believed. And I wanted to stretch it, I wanted to see, I got really good in this niche business that I found by accident. It's an amazing business, and we did great and we're doing incredible things with it. Does that leadership translate into, my 2 co-founders are both Harvard Business School guys. I definitely did not get into Harvard Business School. You know what I mean? I wanted to see if I was good enough to lead people of that caliber. I think that was part of it. If I'm really honest to myself, I think the competitiveness was one piece. And look, I'm 40. A lot of my buddies play like 300 rounds of golf here. That's not gonna make me feel accomplished at the end of the day. I wanted my children, who are getting a little bit older, to see me in the thick of it. I didn't want them just to see the results of the hard work. I wanted them to see the hard work and the price that we pay in order to provide and kick ass for our families. Yeah.
Wow. That is much. This is so incredible. So you went from selling coupons to moving to Puerto Rico to watching your friend's desktop with 60 open tabs, thinking why don't we put all these tabs into one application?
Why don't we close some of those tabs? Yep.
Yeah, we'll close all these tabs, and but there's a ground theme here, right? There's a ground which was laid in your early teenage time. I'm gonna work so hard. I'm going to work harder than everybody else. And,
there are things that I can't control, and they piss me off, and they provide fuel and commitment that the things that I can control, I'm going to make sure I control to the highest extent humanly possible, and continues to try to find ways to raise the bar on the efficiency of me controlling those things. That's the way I look at it, Dana.
Wow. This is the sentence that we'll put right in front of our podcast. This is very, very deep. Yeah, this is very deep. Yeah, I agree. There are things we cannot control. Yes, I also feel pissed off sometimes about those things. But to have this commitment to completely commit ourselves to control the things that we can control. I mean, there's some kind of word of wisdom about God, like help me realize what the things I cannot control, and those who can and give me the power. Yeah, I don't know the words exactly, but it kind of relates to this kind of like biblical wisdom that you're sharing here. So yeah, that is amazing. Oh man, Justin, you're a really, really cool guy. And I would like to ask for this nuggets of wisdom that you would like to share with people. I mean, it's impossible to copy Justin, right? I mean, Justin is a very unique fella. But nevertheless, I mean, there is things that would apply, to entrepreneurs who want to start their own thing today. So what kind of advice would you give to them?
Go for it. Go for it. We have made a tremendous amount of mistakes at Carbon6. I could talk for 10 hours on all the things that we could have done better. Those mistakes are still a very small percentage of the overall decisions that we've taken, because we've had such a bias towards action, and we've said we're going to go 1,000,000 miles per hour, and even if sometimes we bump into the walls, we'll be moving so much faster than others. We'll be moving so much faster than we would if we were being really careful. When people talk about, measure twice, cut once, there are times where that totally applies. Make sure you choose the right partner in life. Make sure you choose the right career path. All that stuff is great. Important. Measure twice, measure 5 times, cut once. The reality, though, is that most people just get paralyzed by their fear, by inaction, by overanalysis. And once we decided we were going to start Carbon6, we were 1,000,000 miles an hour from the first day. And I think that what happens, Dano, is that people, you want an out, right? Because it's hard. It's hard. Working hard is hard. Going for something is hard. What if it doesn't work out? The pain of losing is hard. It's a lot. The comfortability of not accomplishing is familiar. The comfortability, the discomfort of not accomplishing is familiar, and therefore almost comfortable. The discomfort of trying and going for it and failing, that's scary. And most people are paralyzed by that. And if you're a person that's not paralyzed by that, you're starting out 80-90% ahead of everybody. You're ahead of 80-90% of everybody else. And I think that a big lesson that I've had, and look, we've been talking to some of the biggest funds in the world and some of the biggest investors in the world. I mentioned I moved down here. I'm a small town kid. I moved down here, and some of the most famous people on earth live, a 2-minute golf cart ride that way or across the street. And I think that you want to be respectful of everyone, and you want to be respectful of the challenges in front of you, but fear nothing, right? The difference between someone who starts a unicorn tech company And you, maybe it's just that they fucking went for it and they weren't afraid, and they just put in more effort, and they tried harder, and they attacked the problem they were trying to solve with more tenacity and more grit than others. And when things got hard or things got difficult, like it did for all tech entrepreneurs when the markets changed the last couple of years, I was excited that happened. We were excited. We knew it was going to make it harder for us to raise money. We knew it was going to make it harder for us to grow. But we knew that the harder the situation, the more the things that made us special, that we believed made us special, those things I've been talking about for the last half an hour, we knew that that the difference that those would make in a difficult market would be way great. It would be way greater than it would be if everything was on easy street. And I think you got to lean into the pain. You got to lean into what's difficult. You got to lean into the challenge. You got something makes you uncomfortable. You can learn something there. Stay there a while. Fucking fight through it. You know,
Oh, yeah.
and all the magic in your life, in your business, in your life in general, is just on the other side of that discomfort if you fight through it. But also, you getting nothing that you want is right before that pain. And so, what are you going to do? You're in it. You're in there. You can go back. You can go back to where you came from, which you were trying to advance your life. You were trying to find something different anyway. So I don't know why you do that. Or you can just keep going into the abyss and eventually come out the other side.
Oh man, that is really deep, yeah. And yeah, I fully agree. So growth happens outside the comfort zone, right? And leaving the comfort zone can be scary. And but I mean, I think that is exactly the recipe to success: to not fear anything and to just go into the mess and to just have the confidence to get out of it on the other side, and to grow and to learn and to become a better person and to grow a business on the way. Yeah, I think this is really, really deep. Oh man, Justin, you are quite something. That was so amazing to talk to you and to hear these things from you. It gives me goosebumps to talk to guys like you who have like all this first-hand experience and who really know what it's like, to be a wrestler, to build a business, to play the saxophone, which I do too, by the way. So yeah, it's been a great pleasure, Justin. And so, I mean, it's not hard for people to find you right on the interwebs if they're looking for you. But of course, we'll make sure that, whatever you would like to share with our audience. And I would like to thank every one of you who is watching this video. If you want to get in touch with Justin, there will be something under this video to click on. And I would say, let's stay in touch. I would love to learn more from you, from your wisdom, and I will follow you closely, Justin.
Dano, I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate learning from you as well, and it's a great thing that you're doing, trying to spread the word of success to the masses. They need it. They need to hear it. They need to know it's possible.